Yes, I know most of us spent a large part of last year, adapting to the new reality occasioned by COVID-19. Yes, it's still early in the year 2021, and it's expected that now most of us must have adapted to the reality of COVID-19. Now we know what we need to do or must do to avoid contracting the virus, and that is we cannot let down our guards, because unfortunately we are experiencing the second wave of the pandemic in the country. And as we engage the new year, I know Nigerians have strands of expectations, and that include better security, better healthcare system, and also better transport system. You also talk about putting the economy back to order. That's going to be the continuation of what we started yesterday on the show, expectations of Nigerians as we engage 2021. Welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal, Africa's biggest deal. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. And right now, we take you straight to the new studio where Naja'atu Tijani is standing by. Good morning, Naja. How are you today?
Good morning, Suleiman. I'm doing great. Thank you very much, and welcome to the new segment. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed the case of certificate forgery instituted against Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State. Justice Ahmed Mohammed, in his judgment, held that the plaintiffs failed to come up with credible evidence to prove the forgery allegation. Austin Anyebe reports.
The All Progressive Congress had approached the Federal High Court to seek the disqualification of Godwin Obaseki from the September 19th election on allegation of false information given to INEC, informs EC9. Specifically, the plaintiffs alleged that he presented false and forged certificates from University of Ibadan and that he did not fill the column for primary school certificate, inform EC9. Giving judgment on the evidence placed before the court by the plaintiffs and the defense teams, the court held that the burden of proof was on the plaintiffs who alleged forgery. The court held that throughout the proceedings, no credible evidence was adduced to establish a case of forgery against the defendant. Justice Ahmed Mohammed maintained that the court expected the plaintiffs through their witnesses to verify from University of Ibadan, where the governor was alleged to have forged the certificate from, but no attempt was made to do so, as allegations of forgery is criminal and requires full proof of evidence beyond reasonable doubt. The presiding judge, however, agreed with the evidence given by the defense witnesses, particularly the Deputy Registrar Legal for University of Ibadan, who identified the degree certificate in classical studies acquired from the university in 1979. He described his evidence as direct, as it closed the matter and thereby dismissed the case in its entirety.
So we are quite happy and elated, and we hope that this will put to rest this issue of certificate saga that is resuscitated every electoral cycle. Because it's been on 2016, they did the same thing. Anytime Obaseki raises his head to contest an election, they raise the issue of certificates.
Efforts to speak with the counsel to the plaintiffs proved abortive. For the Federal High Court, Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
The National Command and Control Center of the Nigeria Police Force, known as C4I, is embracing the use of cutting-edge technology in the fight against crime and criminality. The center recently unveiled a free emergency call alert app for citizens during emergency situations in any part of the country. Correspondent Francis Form reports.
This is the two-story building inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari in December 2019 to house the Nigeria Police Force National Command and Control Center. And this is what goes on inside. Convergence of command, control, communications, computer and intelligence. It is all about using technology to transmit information. Operations in this center is real-time as live feeds are processed through the body and inbuilt mobile cameras installed on patrol vehicles linked to the control room for prompt action.
because from here we can look at the trend of events and engage in what we call predictive policing. We can analyze data and predict future trends and plan effectively.
Also, the application recently developed by the center can activate and request the presence of police personnel while in distress.
And from Base Command and Control Center, we can manage all manners of emergencies, crime incidents, and all forms of disasters, including both natural and man-made disasters.
The center's operations are linked to the 6 state police commands and the FCT, just as it also monitors the activities of criminal elements on social media handles for necessary action. In Abuja, Francis from NTA News.
The Kano Maiduguri Section 1 project is receiving attention with 61% progress as part of the ongoing assessment to ensure quality and timely completion of all roads across the country. Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports that the inspection team from the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing also gave pass mark to the construction work of the Kano Western Bypass.
It is exactly 14 years when Kano Maiduguri Section 1 dual carriageway was conceived, with a completion period of 4 years. Inadequate cash flow and security challenges resulted in several extensions of the project despite efforts by the successive administrations. From 2015 to date, the Section 1 to 5 of the entire project have received government attention through School Intervention Scheme. Bridges, interchanges, and other concrete works have been carried out to reduce the congestion at Wudil Town, while Gaya to Shuarin is going steadily.
I was angry, vividly angry with this contractor over this because last year's Sukuk they could not access because of low performance, but you could see that they are back on track. We really had a rough time with them and they are determined now to complete the job.
The team also inspected the 26.6 kilometer Kano Western Bypass with 56% completion.
The government is doing well regarding funding the project. The last 3 years, Sukuk 1 to 3 this year, funding has been adequate, and we would like that to continue. As long as that is going on, we'll have to speed up the work and make sure that we deliver this job between the nearest possible time.
The road projects, when completed, will ease traffic flow and enhance economic activities not only for northwestern states, but for West African countries. Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
The governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, has extolled Governor Wike of Rivers State for delivering on his promises and providing good governance to the people. Governor Tambuwal spoke at the inauguration of the reconstructed Forces Avenue, Olumini and Harley Streets at the old government residential area of Port Harcourt. Okedi Nyekweri reports.
Constructed Forces Avenue, Olumini and Harley Streets are part of the urban renewal program of the Rivers State government. The roads are previously not more than 6.5 meters and 7 meters wide, without drainages and street lights as well as walkways. But with the reconstruction of the Forces Avenue, Olumini and Harley Streets, the roads are now dual carriageway with a width of 15.3 and 15.3 meters respectively, and built with drainages. Wike says the Rivers State government will continue to improve the living condition of the people through the provision of massive infrastructure.
You need more roads will come to you. Because I want my state, I want the capital of the city to look like other capitals in the world.
Governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, and the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Prince Uche Secondus, extolled the leadership qualities of Governor Wike, whom they said has continued to justify the confidence reposed in him through the provision of good governance.
We are all doing our best to deliver on our promises and to provide good governance.
You are one of the shining lights and leader of our party because your good works speaks for itself.
They enjoined Rivers people to continue to support him. In Port Harcourt, Ogedi Nyekwere, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the federal government public works project has been flagged off in more states. Mayor Ogidi reports.
Labour Minister Chris Ngige, laboring for the good of the youths in Anambra State. It is the flagging off of the Special Public Works Programme. 1,000 youths from the 21 local government areas equipped with the needed tools to keep public infrastructure and environment clean.
We want to use this as a stopgap measure to absorb the teeming army of unemployed youths.
Instead of staying at home, doing nothing, at least with this I'll be able to go out. Nobody will say I'm gossiping at home.
As the senior minister goes to clean the drainages in Anambra State, the junior minister Festus Keyamo goes to farm in Delta, all in demonstration of the Public Works Programme. But keeping the women busy to feed the homes occupies the minister's heart.
Let's beg my state selection people. I always beg the state directors of NTA. Please give women more slots. I will beg now. The women will manage this money more than the men.
Properly kitted against COVID-19, 27,000 beneficiaries of the program welcomed the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, to commence the exercise in Jigawa State.
The emergence of the novel COVID-19 pandemic, the President and Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari, directed the Economic Sustainability Committee under the chairmanship of the Vice President, Professor Ide Osinbajo, to craft economic measures to cushion the adverse socio-economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The unprecedented social intervention programs in this country it's so remarkable, so big, that we have not seen the type.
In Kwara State, with about 1 billion naira set for the program, the selection process was reportedly all-encompassing because women, youths, and the physically challenged made the list.
More because with the little I'm going to earn, I will add it to my business.
In Ibadan, a representative of the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, symbolically flagged off the youth-friendly program with words of excitement and determination in excess.
All the tools and equipment required have been provided. Hence, the federal government expects strong commitment from all stakeholders in ensuring efficient implementation.
The federal government Special Public Works Program has its presence in all the 774 local government areas across the country and will last for 3 months. Mayor Ogidi, NTA.
Similarly, in Gombe State, Governor Muhammad Inuwa Yahya has donated 25 million naira to the state chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria for its center project. Emmanuel Akila reports.
Sounds of joy that come along with Christmas and New Year celebrations, despite the COVID-19 pandemic and other challenges that characterize the year 2020. Besides the donation of 25 million naira in support of Khan Center project, Governor Mahmoud Yahya assured of sustainable sponsorship of Christians in the state to perform the yearly pilgrimage to Israel, appreciating the Christian community for their prayers and support to the government, believing that good governance calls for equity and justice to all.
I saw that I would lead the people with fairness, justice, and equity. And I believe I'm doing my best in order to actualize. And that is why we go to all the widths and lengths of Gombe State in order to take development.
To the Christian community, the season is that of sharing, spreading the messages of love, as well as obedience to constituted authority.
Our Christian brethren are excited that they have come close to the governor in the government house. They are prayed to express their wishes and also to present before the government requests of the Christian community.
The regular homage by Christians to the government featured special prayers for the country to overcome security challenges and the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
And on the sports scene, Golden Eaglets pull 1-1 draw with Ghana in Lome on Saturday. Details with Gift George.
Nigeria's Golden Eaglets on Saturday evening settled for a 1-1 draw against Ghana on the 17th side at the ongoing Waffle tournament in Lomé, Togo. With the result, the Golden Eaglets' chance of qualifying to the knockout stage of the competition is not certain after losing their first match to Cote d'Ivoire by a 1-0.
It looks like we are losing our dominance in regional football already. And if you could remember, the Flying Eagles we also knocked out of the Waffle.
The under-17 team is the record world champion, and we cannot get past the Waffle tournament. We ought to do better than this.
Week 3 of the Nigerian Professional Football League will see MFM play host to Sunshine Stars at the Agege Township Stadium, which will be transmitted live on the network service of the NTA on Sunday by 4 p.m. In other fixtures, Nasarawa United take on Kano Pillars, Katsina United against Adamawa United, Plateau United welcomes Heartland, Lobby tackles Warri Wolves, Rivers United faces Kwara United, Eimba against Wiki Tourists, Wajagawa Golden Stars plays host to Rangers of Enugu. The 2021 African Nations Championship, also referred as CHAN, will be the 6th edition of the African Nations Championship. CAF announced on March 17, 2020 that the tournament had been postponed to a later date due to COVID-19. On June 30th, CAF announced that the tournament would commence from January 16 to February 7, 2021. 16 teams will feature at the tournament to be hosted by Cameroon. The teams must have all their players playing in their domestic league. Morocco are the defending champions. From Ado Ekiti, Ayodeji Ogunshake reports that youth in Ekiti State are taking steps to key into various sporting activities in their communities to develop talents for future sporting engagement.
Here too, it's possible to build a sport economy where we make money from sports.
With Sports Update, Gifts George, NTA News.
And Sports Update concludes the AM News. Let's rejoin Suleiman on Weekend Deal.
Thank you, Naja, for the news beat, and we continue in that direction, this time from the papers. We start with Sunday Independent with stories just above the masthead. We're starting with how prepared is Southeast for 2023 presidency. Details of that on page 20. Kaduna Sex Party, El-Rufai's brashness and police incompetence. 3 killed, 2 injured as a Motekun herdsmen clash in Oyo. In 3 years, top 10 stockbrokers seal deal worth 4.16 trillion naira. Now to the leading story, Buhari sacks Abdullah, NDLEA chairman, disquiet as dismissed CEO embarks on hasty recruitment. It's a sham, unacceptable. Officers, Malami holds exercise. Details on page 3. How bandits kill, abduct, rape in Zamfara. Details of this on page 17. Intrigue, anxiety as Ohanaeze Ndigbo election holds today. Lasu Senate holds emergency meeting tomorrow. Unionists react. Details on page 4. Obaseki wins again as court dismisses certificate forgery case. Ruling victory for truth. Ruling victory for truth. Rule of law, says Edo governor. Jubilations in Benin. Details of that on page 2. Now to the next paper I have with me, and that is Daily Trust, and straight to the leading story, or just before that, we think much, sleep very little, extreme rising cases of trauma in Zamfara. Details of this can be found on pages 36 and 37. Now, tension in Oyo as Amotekun attacks Fulani settlement, kills father, 2 sons. They have lived here for 45 years. Outfit must not be another SARS, says Shoinka. Details of this on page 4. Now, Zaria City gates still bustle 700 years after construction. Details on pages 5, 16, and 7, 15, 16, and 17. Army redeploys senior officers. Cover race for new IGP Hotsub as Adamu retires February 1. Outgoing police boss. Others intensify lobby. Factors 4 against tenure extension. what the law says. Details on pages 5 and 6. Now, a bit of tragedy here as well. A football legend, Christian Chukwu, dies at 70. Details of that on page 7. Still on page 7. After Daily Trust report, Ogun Commissioner visits forest, uncovers illegal flyover. Now to the next story, next paper I have with me, and that is Leadership Sunday. NNPC to raise $1 billion for revamping of Port Harcourt refinery. Details on page 21. Health workers decry lack of COVID-19 PPEs. It has some riders here which says that we are overworked. Testing centers grossly inadequate. Lab scientists. Insurers set to pay deceased health workers free insurance cover. Nigerian Medical Association seeks increased outreach to health workers. 42 countries already disbursing vaccines, says World Health Organization. Army releases lists of successful candidates for Service Competence Course and District Short Service Commission. Court dismisses certificate forgery case against Obaseki. Trump has integrity lessons to learn from PMB, says APC. Details of that on page 10. 62 feared dead as Indonesian plane crashes after takeoff. Now to Sunday Telegraph. We start with stories just above the masthead. Zulum's utterances demoralizing military. General Jonathan Temlong retired. Details on pages 20 and 21. Lagos-Ibadan rail won't be ready for January commissioning investigation. Details on page 16. Odige Oyegun, we need more Bishop Cookers in Nigeria. Why criminality may increase in 2021, Dr. Ona Ekomo. Details on page 22. Now to the leading story, which says COVID-19 second wave. Fresh lockdown will prolong economic recession. Professor Uwaleke others. As federal government releases sharing formula for first vaccine, total restriction will be counterproductive. Experts, vaccination can stop exposure to coronavirus. Professor Tomori. Individuals, not government, can control pandemic. Lagos shuts nightclub, arrest 243 for flouting safety protocols. Obaseki louds judges as court dismisses certificate forgery suit. All right, let's go up a bit. Despite restrictions, agricultural goods imports increased by 263.5 billion naira. Details of that on page 6. Now, Democrats to introduce Trump impeachment article as president slams Twitter ban. Your democratic ethos diminution, says the APC tells U.S. Report. Army redeploys 1,546 senior officers. Details on page 8. Now to Sunday Sun. Election day, confusion, anger hit Ohaneze. Details on page 16. LASU sacks 20 lecturers for not having PhD. Details on page 3. Certificate forgery, mixed reactions, trails of Obaseki's victory in Benin. Alleged felony, group petitions UK, Israel to repatriate IPOB leader. Details on page 26. Bloody Saturday, gunmen killed 3 in Kaduna, 2 cattle poisoned, 7 feared dead in Oyo, 2 Omotekun. 7 feared dead in Oyo, 2 injured in Omotekun herdsmen clash. As as IGP Adamu quits February 1, tension in police headquarters. 3 DIGs, 10 AIGs to go. Baraya Lamode Inauku, Karma, Mustafa Adoye, Adeanju, others in list. 3 DIGs, 2 AIGs, 1 CP warm-up to replace IGP. Now to Sporting Sun. Club Salah's new contract not priority. Ndidi propels Foxes to FA Cup 4th round. Iwobi shines in Everton's FA Cup win. Arsenal unwilling to pay Ozil's wages in Fenerbahce loan. Blues striker confirms allegiance to Nigeria. Find out details of that on page 2. Tomori, I want to quit Chelsea. Zidane tipped to replace Deschamps as France coach. Real Madrid begs Adidas to help win David Alaba race. And that is much we can take from the papers. And next is a break. After that, we start our conversation in the studio proper.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency. The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Okay, if you just join us, this is Weekend Deal, and we are live from the city capital. Now, yesterday we started a conversation about expectations of Nigeria in the year 2021. Yes, we spent the larger part of last year adapting to the new reality of COVID-19. So it is expected that by now we have found our ways around the COVID, pandemic, and we're expecting that a lot of things will kickstart properly in the year 2021. So let's take this overview as a way of a background report by Francis Obi.
While the beginning of every year comes with celebrations and stock-taking on successes and challenges made in the previous year, it is also a time for renewed hopes and expectations. A time to set goals and resolutions and expect to meet them by the end of the year. These expectations are not limited to the economy and security of the nation alone. Nigerians are also looking forward to better healthcare services.
Rather than go there doing medical tourism, we can also do medical tourism here by bringing doctors to come here and treat people. Money that we use to pay for air flights, airfares, the money we pay at the hospitals will be here in Nigeria. You buy the equipment, and don't forget, many of Nigerian doctors, Nigerian trained doctors from the University of Ibadan, ABU, UNIBEN, UNILAG, Obama University, and so on and so forth, are excelling over there.
Statistics have it that in 2019, there were approximately 24.59 million social network users in Nigeria, and this figure is projected to grow to 44.63 million users in 2025. How has the usage of social media been in Nigeria? How has information, communication, and technology helped in the oil and gas industry? What are Nigerians expecting from the social media space?
In the course of the lockdown, there was a photo shot where somebody just went into the incident that happened sometime in the US in 2011 and popularized it on the social media. You see a very long beach littered with dead fishes and piled like sardine. And somebody projected it to make it believe that this happened in our shoreline. Those are the kind of things that people give. And when people saw it, it instantly caused panic and fear. Even me, when I first saw it, I was devastated until I rose to challenge. And then saw, and luckily, because this is an environmental issue, we've been on these things for quite some time now, and we discovered that this thing was taken from a picture that happened sometime in 8 years back. You can see that kind of misinformation. Of course, we challenged it very well in the press. Nigerians in the use of social media is to be very careful. You see, it is this part of the world where I see people make hay. They are happy when they project the bad image about their countries.
The federal government has a large number of institutions aimed at monitoring the power of the executive, increasing personal freedom, protecting consumers from exploitation, and ensuring justice. What are Nigerians expecting from such institutions responsible for enforcing standards?
For the consumer, when you buy and it doesn't meet the standard you expected it to be, you go to Consumer Protection Commission. For the ones just coming in, the Standard Organization of Nigeria is there. They should make sure that we follow the footsteps of countries like the United States of America. If America, you probably hear a number of cases where they say several thousands of vehicles are recalled, just for the fact that they're able to see that the brake system of one or two vehicles gave fault without the expected norm. They recall so many in that particular batch and send them back to the producers to cross-check and send back to wherever they are brought from. So we too should also try to see all of these things we are talking about is about patriotism.
All over the world, meaningful development cannot take place in an atmosphere of chaos and anarchy. Thus, a secured environment is necessary for peace and sustainable development. Despite the challenges of 2020, Nigerians are optimistic of a better new year as well as improved security in 2021.
The security challenges in the operation oil-producing areas is to a large extent very getting much better than what it used to be sometime back, 2008, 2009, until when you had amnesty. I think since we had that amnesty in the oil-producing area, the security challenges there had really gone down. We are hoping that in 2021, by the grace of God, if we get the requisite approval from the source we are looking at it, we intend to begin to introduce drones in the areas where we have oil spill incidents.
Nigeria continues to focus on electrifying rural areas of the country, where as much as 55% of the population remains without electricity access. Recently, the emergence of mini-grids as a cost-effective option for electricity provision has created an exciting opportunity to rapidly increase electrification. Also, on 2nd November 2020, the federal government signed grant agreement for the electrification of 4 communities. What does this portend for Nigerians in 2021? Weekend Deal today focuses on expectations for 2021.
Yes, trends of expectation there, and of course Nigerians will be looking forward that 2021 will be a better year for all. And I know one key area that has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic is actually the economy. In fact, as a matter of fact, Nigeria slipped into recession last year, even though there are conversations around that area that we are likely to exit it in 2021. But let's take this next report, which focuses on that from NTA Sokoto.
For more than a quarter, economic activities in Nigeria have been on the decline, a strong indicator that we are in a recession.
The economy must experience, drop, in negative growth, for 2 or more quarters. Economic activities generally, have been halted, and for that reason, we expect that there will be, crisis in the economy, not only in Nigeria but across a number of world economies. First wave of coronavirus, we had so many challenges. The fear that corona, kills immediately, led us to so many decisions. For instance, there were lockdowns in most states, and because of these lockdowns, there were no productions, there were no this, there were so many things, the people didn't go to work. Government taxes, reduced. The taxes that government collect from corporate bodies, from individuals, and so many other issues, reduced.
We are not producers in the world. We are importers. The only product we have major was the crude oil. At this stage, nobody was buying any crude oil because we don't need it. The crude oil we have and exported to survive as a nation was at zero level.
Dr. Shaba is demonstrating his concern about the trend as government dishes out social intervention funds into hands without basic entrepreneurial skills.
You have to have the skills to know how to manage the business. Our people, they are lacking managerial efficiency. That is why today, if you go around the Sokoto state, like Kalambena, let out, and other places, and there is a lot of company collapse.
What he does here is to guide young Nigerians so that they could translate college theories into practice. It is not how much money that is pumped can improve the economy, but business skills to invest and run ventures to profit. Equipping individuals with such skills create the moves necessary for swift recovery from the scary trends of recession.
If people are collecting money, let them understand that this money is not just the usual government money. It should be a revolving fund. Mr. ABC and they collect, and then they use it for 2 years, 3 years, and then they return it back and they give to Mrs. and Mrs. BCD, like that, and then they also use it.
It's not time for you to start thinking of a new car, or a new house, or a new wife. Survival fast. You should know that whatever you get, you must invest rightly. So that by the time you are out of this recession, you can start thinking of yourself. But now you should be thinking of your survival.
Putting the needful tactics in place will bring hope as the year 2021 unfolds.
Well, trust me, we are all hopeful about, getting, back to our normal ways. But that must be after we must have contained the spread of COVID-19, because without that, we cannot go back to, the way we used to do things in the country and indeed around the globe. Right now, we have joined us in the studio an epidemiologist and also a public health physician. He's also a medical statistician and person of Dr. Kenneth Tefa. You are welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much, Suleiman. Thank you, Nigerians. Thank you very much for hosting me on this program.
Well, it's early in the year, and I know we have our expectations, most especially as it affects the health sector. Let's start with that. You say there are three key things that we should be expecting that the government focus on in this 2021.
Yes, the first thing is to look at the health system. We have a three-tier health system: primary, secondary, and tertiary. And COVID-19 has actually exposed the inadequacies in the health system, actually help us with making a diagnosis. So the first primary thing to do as a country is to make sure that COVID is off our part. Okay. We have to make sure that COVID is off our part, and that involves you, involves myself, involves the general population. It involves us obeying the regulations that NCDC have put in place. But also importantly, it's also help us to look at the health system holistically and start a process that can lead to recovery. Now, let me give historical background. Each time there is an epidemic, it challenges the health system. Mm-hmm. Now, that challenge, the health system learns from the challenges and put in place a system that improves the health system to a very significant extent. Let's take polio, for instance. Dealing with polio, the country was able to actually develop a logistic system for vaccine. So we now have a system for vaccine distribution of all kinds. Now, what does logistic system for vaccine mean? It means human beings, it means vehicles, it means where those vaccines will arrive and be used. So that system is now robust, but it's not to the extent that we all expect, but then it's in place. Now, the Ebola epidemic also exposed us to a lot of challenges, but also we learn from that. Now, as I talk to you now, NCDC in place at the national level, but in every state there's an epidemic response team. There's emergency operation centers, and this response team actually help with response to all manner of diseases. So that is a lesson learned. Now, what does Ebola help us do? Ebola helped us make a diagnosis of our current health status. Now, before, the diagnosis of health status was coming from health workers, it was coming from doctors, it was coming from nurses who were all complaining about the health system. Now, everybody knows the strength of our health system. You all know about it, and the leadership have also confessed that, look, they never understood the extent to which we have issues in the health system. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that we now know what the issues are, and then we can work in addressing those issues.
Now, we know that the COVID pandemic has actually, exposed the, limitations of our, healthcare system in the country. And I know one of the focus this year is to ensure universal health coverage in the country. Now, let's look at the primary health care. If you go to some of the centers, you'll be wondering, why in Nigeria do we have buildings like this and facilities like this that cannot even, take care of the needs of the rural environments where they are being located?
Okay, so as I said, the first thing dealing with the problem is making a diagnosis. Before it was headquarters complaining. Now we know that there's a problem. And what do we do next? We address the problem. Now, but for us to address the problem in 2021, we must deal with COVID. Why? COVID is a part. COVID is not a part. Once we deal with COVID, you know that we have other issues that we also need to address. But then our entire investment shouldn't be in COVID, but we also look at that. We still have issues of diarrhea in children. We still have issues of maternal mortality. We have other health issues. But importantly, if COVID is not addressed, the fear around it, the issues around it, will not allow us to even build a recovery system.
And some have actually said that the attention given to COVID-19 pandemic in the country and indeed world over, if similar attention is given to other, health challenges in the country, perhaps we will not be, having some of these challenges that we are being confronted with today in the country.
I agree with you completely. But then opportunities come at all times for every generation. So this is our opportunity within the health sector. Now, where we would have talked about in the past, I have not gotten the attention that is required. Today, COVID is here. COVID needs to be dealt with. And once we finish dealing with COVID, we will now start the recovery process. And everybody knows that that recovery will affect everybody. If we don't get the health system right, it affects you, it affects me, it affects everybody on the street. So that attention will be given to it. But what we are saying is that it should be structured. It should be in a way that, look, as we move forward, we are very confident that we're building something that is very strong enough to address our own issues.
Well, do we stand, this reality that because of the attention given to COVID-19, other illnesses are actually thriving in the country?
I agree. It's true. Because it's not just about attention. It's about the health service system. Why do I say that? Now, for you to go to a regular hospital now, you will know that some people go and then they will not get the right services that they want to get at any point in time that's specifically in the healthcare and relating to primary healthcare. But then, when you have an epidemic, you must deal with the epidemic first. Yeah, people are dying for other complications, people are dying from diabetes, people are dying from other conditions and stuff like that because of this response. We also need to pay attention to that. We shouldn't concentrate all our efforts on COVID, but it's important that it should be our priority.
Well, definitely our priority, and then the world over, vaccines have been rolled out, and I'm sure, sometime within this month, we are going to receive our first dose in the country. But what role do individuals need to play in ensuring that we have a COVID-free nation?
Okay, first is to abide by the regulations or rules of NCDC that guides our existence at this point in time. One, wearing our face masks. Two, ensuring that we obey physical distance, and all the other issues that we need to deal with so that we break the transmission. And one of them is vaccine. Now, whether we like it or not, vaccines are tools that are used as public approach to breaking transmission of diseases. Now, people have talked about vaccine in different forms. People have said all manner of theories about it. But if we want to understand how vaccines are built, it's even now possible with technology to get vaccines done in a very short time. The reason is that once there's a disease that is emerging anywhere, the sequencing of that disease is known, and anybody can do a replica of that disease to stimulate the body. Now, what is really a vaccine? A vaccine is a teacher. A vaccine enters your body. If you want somebody giving a vaccine, that vaccine teaches your body to build immune system so that we can fight off diseases. So it only goes to teach the body. So you have an injury now, your body will respond to that injury. The swelling will start. A few hours later, you will have fever. It's your body responding to that injury. So people have complained, raised all manner of issues, but the truth of the matter is that when you are exposed to any foreign body, the body responds to it, and one of them is fever. Those fever could be transient, and then after a while, you recover from it. But of course, at this moment, we have an issue, and we must deal with that issue.
Okay. Now, I'm sure we'll talk further about this, but that will be after we must have taken this next report coming from NTA Oka. It talks about the state of our healthcare system in the country.
Healthcare stands as one of the nation's most important and costliest issues since it is still battling with the pandemic COVID-19 that ravaged almost the whole world in the last 2 years. Some are of the view that despite all the medical and health policies, Nigeria still experiences fallout in healthcare transformations since it is still having poor universal health coverage, inadequate infrastructure, poor practices which causes brain drain.
Government, they've been making a lot of efforts, but we're not seeing the improvement. Like in our health center, we're only about 2 staff in the whole health center.
They should get equipment to fight this coronavirus the way they are fighting in the outside world, outside this country. They should get more equipment. Then the nurses and doctors, they should be well equipped.
Against this backdrop, stakeholders stress that there is need for government to manage the improvement of primary health care centers in order to tackle head-on the challenges facing the nation's health sector over the years.
The government to improve the healthcare services, more especially in the rural areas.
Of healthcare and medical care is for us to sensitize all the company owners and even the government, so that all the staffs, all the workers will sign up for this national health scheme, where the husband, the wife, and at least minimum of 4 of your children that are below 18 years of age will be able to access free health insurance benefits.
Increasing access to the rural communities through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. I'm aware that we are expanding universal health coverage to involve a lot more people in every political ward in Nigeria, and that's a great thing. Like in Anambra State, about 28,000 people are going to be enrolled in every political ward.
However, as the year 2021 is still unrevealed, people's expectations are still high as they want government at all levels to tackle the challenges arising from not only the health sector, but to also look into security challenges and well-being of a citizenry.
And that's a good thing. We have improved access. We also have increase in the diagnosis of things like non-communicable diseases and others. We see an improvement in ability to get immunized and vaccination penetration across all communities. And so healthcare is going to really get a good attention in 2021. And our hope is that this will create a healthier Nigeria.
Yes, healthier Nigeria is what we want to see from this year onward. And now, we still have Dr. Tefa here with us in the studio. Now, we know that some people are really concerned about the vaccine, availability in the country, because in the country, of course, we know we're going to have our dose, from any moment from now. Mm-hmm. Now, some Nigerians will need to be convinced otherwise. Why? Because they are already, coming up with different conspiracy theories. And by the way, it's not just them. It's around the world that you have other illnesses, you have other viruses that we've been living with up till now. They do not have vaccine, and under 1 year you have COVID vaccine, and they're scared. How did you come up with that?
Right. In fact, that is a very beautiful question. First, let's do the analysis of how a vaccine comes about. Now, the first point is this. For you to develop a vaccine, you must understand the entire life cycle of the disease. That is the first thing.
Have we understood the life cycle of the disease?
Of course. Now, before, 30 years ago, if you want to send a letter, you go to post office, you take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months before the letter arrives at the destination. Today, you send an email, you send WhatsApp. So technologies have developed. We are at the point where once a disease is identified, the entire genome is sequenced. That sequencing is important. It means that if you know the sequence A, B, C, D to whatever sequence you know, it means you know the particle that's responsible for stimulating immune response. So what the people who develop vaccine will look for is to pick that subunit that stimulates the immune response. So we'll talk about immunogenesis. So that subunit will be immunogenic. So it will be able to develop, stimulate your body to produce those cells that will fight the disease. So it's possible. It's possible. In a matter of weeks, sequencing of any gene is done. So that is possible. So people are worried, it took us a very short period to do that. Now we have an emergency at hand. 2, we have scientists who have done sequencing of the virus. 3, we have people who have capacity for vaccine development. They can just pick the subunit of the virus that now is immunogenic and then produce a vaccine from it. Now, people are afraid, what is a vaccine? A vaccine is just a picture. The technology that's being used now is not the virus itself. It's a picture, it's a subunit. It's recombinant strategies that are used to get a subunit of that stimulates the immune response. So I give you an example. Suleiman, we're here today. Now, if I want somebody to know who Suleiman is, I just need your picture. Now, that picture is not Suleiman. So I take a picture, show it to somebody. Now, that person sees Suleiman, and if subsequently the individual sees you physically, depends on the instruction that I've given the person. I say, okay, please hug Suleiman. The person sees Suleiman. Oh, this is Suleiman, hugs you. If I say slap Suleiman, the person sees Suleiman, slaps you. That is what the vaccine is all about. It's just, in fact, the technology says that it's just a picture of what the virus look like, and then it's not exposed to the body. The body and develop the immune cells that fight off the disease. Once the individual is now exposed to a disease in its real form, the body cells are ready to do that fighting. That is the whole process. And that process can be done very fast because we now have technology for it.
Well, the doctor is still here with us, and you can do well by sending in your contribution, questions, observations. Of course, you can do that via the number being displayed on your screen right now. Now, Dr. Tefa, still on COVID-19. We know that you are a medical statistician and you deal with data, you analyze data and then provide solution to how we can deal with some certain, challenges in the country. Now, you know that COVID has actually, yes, we're experiencing, the second wave right now. The numbers are, shooting high up there, but the casualty, the effect of COVID-19 is not much felt in the country compared to other climes. The number of people being affected, number of deaths being recorded, and all of that. What really is responsible? Have you taken time to, do your observation, making inferences from those observations you have made as a medical practitioner?
Okay, so the spectrum of factors responsible for outcome of disease, even for an individual. If I sneeze now on you, chances are that you may not catch a cold. Another person sitting by me may catch a cold. Isn't it? Now, so there's a spectrum of response of individuals, of communities, of nations. Now, if we look at that, there are so many factors that we cannot at this point convincingly say this is what is responsible. But we'll share different geographical locations. We have different exposures to illness that by nature also stimulate us to develop immune response. We have so many factors that differentiate us from other countries. So for now, somebody cannot convincingly lay hands and say, this is what is responsible for this. But again, we have empirical evidence to know that these differentials will contribute to our better outcome that we're seeing.
Okay. Now, we are looking at, we're in an era where, homegrown solutions are being encouraged, in different sectors, and health is not out of place. Now, what do we need to do differently to, encourage, those who are, engaging different avenues to ensuring that they provide homegrown solutions for COVID-19 pandemic in the country?
You see, the one thing I tell people is that the number one homegrown solution is quality food.
Okay.
Because it's what you eat that helps you build the immune system. If the quality of what you eat is wrong, you cannot have a strong immune system. So first and foremost, go back to the basis. What is the type of food that you eat at home? What type of food do you eat? What do your family eat? What do you have? There's what I call differential nutrition. That it's not every food that everybody in the family should eat. What children should eat should be different from what adults should eat. It's all like having a baby that is less than 1 year. That baby is supposed to be sucking breast. But you can't share breast to everybody, breast milk to everybody in the family. So again, people don't understand that nutrition is critical to immune response. People eat all manner of things. You are there in the fast food joint, eating all manner of fried items. As an adult, you have 70 years, you are 50 years, you are 60 years doing that. That is not healthy enough. So the number one homegrown solution is quality food. Eating food with a lot of green vegetables, a lot of fruits and vegetables, eating what is right, and that will help your body build immune system.
What about exercise?
Of course, exercise is part of the whole gamut of things that need to be done. But I was just saying that, look, nutrition first, exercise follows.
But the point is having, a very good immune system.
Exactly. And a good immune system, the number one determinant of it is what you eat and what enters your mouth.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Tefa. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And then, of course, so we're hoping that by the end of 2021, we must have, developed that herd immunity against COVID-19 in the country. Yes, security has always been a huge challenge in the country. It featured, greatly in 2020 and even in 2021. Early days, but we still have this huge challenge in front of us. Now, always focuses on security challenge, most especially one chance and other, security challenges within the FCT. Let's see this.
Commuters particularly face a growing risk of being robbed in taxis operated by communal elements known as One Chance on an almost daily basis.
We know that kidnapping is being instigated or caused by 2 or 3 factors. One, we have kidnapping for ransom, which is money, and we have kidnapping for political reason. But the one we are witnessing here is mostly kidnapping for ransom.
Aside from Kuje and Kwali, which have the most recorded cases of security breaches, Abuja is another area that has come under increasing attacks by kidnappers. There is a reported case of gunmen abducting 2 sons of the chief imam of Abuja Central Mosque, Umar Bala and Hamza Bala, together with Sagir Issa. Also, a fully loaded Toyota Previa bus was forced off the Pirikwali road by gunmen who shot sporadically at the vehicle. What measures have been put in place to curb this monster?
We are monitoring black spots and other areas that will give us trouble crime-wise. Therefore, we've done a lot of deployments in terms of both covert and overt, and foot and vehicular patrols put in place. We also have a different variant, which is also a patrol now, convoy patrol. We are massing strengths to ensure that any situation that counts is properly taken care of. We are soliciting on members of the public to render us utmost cooperation.
We know the areas, because of the difficult terrain, so we have to take the fight to the kidnappers' den, which are mostly in that Kuje, Gaube, Pegi, Kabimangoro, and Kwali axis, including Abuja.
It was not a common sight to have security personnel in every house on every street. But now, it is almost impossible to find a house without a guard or an untrained security personnel. That is why the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, has kicked off the implementation of the State Community Policing Initiative aimed at reducing the menace of crime and insecurity in communities.
We, as a command, are restructuring these strategies. We are improving upon them and maintaining them for 2021. So we are hoping for a better year in 2021. And we cannot do this without residents. We cannot do this without members of the community. The command has also rolled out some special constabularies, about 96 of them, who would be participating in policing activities within their areas of residence.
The FCT Minister, Malam Muhammad Bello, has asked for the trust and support of Abuja's residents, assuring them of intensified efforts by the police and other security agencies to secure lives and properties in 2021.
Agriculture.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Ore, for that beautifully packaged report on security challenges in the country. And of course, the body language of the government, the ruling government, says that 2021 will be a very tough year for all these criminal elements and in the society. Banditry, kidnapping, and all of that will be seriously checked. And for the individual, it is not just the responsibility of the security agencies to provide that safe environment. We all have the role to play. We are all stakeholders to ensuring that we have, our security intact in the country. So if you see something, say something. Up next is a report on food sufficiency in the country, and NTA Maiduguri actually is looking at this in details. After that, we talk more.
Agriculture earlier was no doubt the most important subsector in the Nigerian economy. For instance, groundnut production was a common practice in the north, while cocoa cultivation was known in the west and palm plantation in the east. However, the agricultural sector began a downturn when oil was discovered.
We abandoned and forget about agriculture. So our young ones are no longer agrarians. They look for cheap labor. They don't go for farming, and so agriculture is now dying.
Nigeria itself, the mainstay of Nigeria is agriculture. Look at all the developmental activities, developmental projects. Look at all the legacies within Nigeria today, were initially from the groundnut pyramid that Nigeria rely on.
But in the recent times, efforts are being made by the Nigerian government to restore agriculture. Several policies and initiatives are now being developed in order to achieve sufficiency and self-reliance in food production. Though much attention has been given to agriculture, some researchers are of the expectation that there will be food scarcity in the year 2021.
As a result of low production, it will bring about low supply. And if the demand is very high, it will definitely be very scarce. The entrepreneurship skills, most of our people don't have that skill, and they don't have access to modern farming techniques.
Farmers are the catalysts that led to every country to food sufficiency and help in saving money, which may be used for importation. The current situation of insurgency in the northeast and banditry in some part of the country hinders farmers to get access to their farms.
People started shifting away from agriculture to oil exploration. And now oil exploration has become a global phenomenon. That some countries today do not even rely on oil. And even if you can look at the trend of this present government is encouraging people to come back to agriculture. Even the budget of this year, if you look at it, more resources and more budgetary allocation were to agriculture and education.
Food is life. Therefore, the achievement of food sufficiency is an insurance against hunger.
There you have an interesting one there. And just to remind you, you can keep sending in your comments. We get to share it with the rest of the viewers. Now, we know that for a lot of people last year, at the beginning of last year, there were so much expectations about, parties to attend, the weddings to attend, the movie premieres and all of that. And Nigerians, we are very fashionable, and we had a lot of, styles, that we wanted to share with others. But because of the restriction in movement, we could not wear some of them, and we know that people have adapted really well. So in the next feature, we're going to look at the fashion trends that will likely dominate 2021, or that you can actually, borrow from in terms of styling yourself. So let's take this next feature put together by Onika Chiogba.
Outfits planned for this year that I couldn't wear, so I just wanted to show you. See this? I love it. I couldn't wear it. Love it. Couldn't wear it.
Last year, a ton of great outfits went unworn as we spent most of our time in isolation amidst other restrictions. With the vaccine in circulation, the possibility of spending as much time as possible outdoors has us feeling optimistic. And fashion this year will reflect that collective mood. 2021 fashion trends signal a sunny disposition, a taste for comfort, a sense of feel-good nostalgia, and hope for a more joyful year, with trends that will inspire, reinvent, and invigorate. We've gone through a hard year, and a bit of joy, if only through our clothes, feels very necessary. Pushing forward, flowers signify new beginnings, And nothing lifts the mood quite like a pretty dress. Expect painterly palettes of color, cheery enough to put a spring in one step. There's a collective move to general silhouettes, and the puffed sleeve has become something of a wardrobe mainstay in recent seasons. Capture the chic and fashion-forward spirit of this trend with voluminous tops and dresses. A great example is the Geneva smock dress in any number of vibrant colors. You can also try the Babita dress, a stunning style that you can expect to see at every event this year. The iconic combo of a sweetheart lace-up neckline and elasticated, exaggerated puff sleeves can be dressed up or down with heels or trainers. Approach your wardrobe with a more relaxed and practical sensibility this year with elevated loungewear and workwear athleisure hybrids. Key into this trend with biker shorts. The nostalgic trend experienced a high fashion revival recently that will continue well into our 2021 outfit rotation. Biker shorts aren't the only throwback fashion item on our list. Tons of fashionable trends from eras gone by are going to have a major moment this year, like bold shoulders, two-tone pieces in a variety of color combinations, retro sunglasses, and mini bags. Expect to see an influx of wide leg pants, especially the high-waisted and flared bell-bottom silhouette, as well as the conspicuous palazzo. A most exciting throwback this year is going to be reflected in trans-seasonal footwear. Cue the chunky sneakers, square-toe heels, platform shoes, and heeled mules. Give your deep waves and luscious curls a break and tap into the hottest hair trend of the new year. Over the holiday period, fashion-forward ladies ignited a social media sensation over bone straight hair. And for good reason. It's one of the top beauty trends for this year that plays right into the unfussy, unbothered aesthetic that's set to sweep headlines for 2021. This year, the less is more aesthetic extends beyond hair trends. Expect to see it in makeup, jewelry, and fashion, of course. Where makeup is concerned, industry influencers are gravitating toward a more natural finish. Think skin tones, neutrals, and glossy over matte. Inspired by geometry and clean lines, delicate accessories are a must-have this year. Studs, sleek hoops, stacking rings, bangle bracelets, and layered necklaces. The style is perfect for people who favor a super simple and clean fashion style. But if your style is big, bold, and bright, skip the heavy jewelry. A simple layered necklace adds a subtle enhancement to your outfit and overall look. Nothing says minimalist fashion quite like the versatile blazer style, which looks good on its own with a bit of length and pairs well with dresses, trousers, and jeans. Overall, the trends for 2021 are bold, exciting, and a much-needed breath of fresh air. Take on the year's biggest trends with confidence and charisma.
All right, so there you have it. Thank you very much, Onyekachi Ogba, for that wonderful, feature. And then, trust me, those are wonderful styles you can leverage on come in this 2021. And, fashion industry actually is an industry that really adapted well in some ways. When we talk about COVID, the impact that COVID-19 had on the industry. And we saw some, people using the online platform to actually have virtual runways. So that was quite, creative, I must say. And then that's one, billion dollars industry that can actually thrive and impact the economy positively. But even those industry players, they need constant power supply in order to thrive in their businesses, and that has been a major challenge confronting Nigeria, most especially as we talk about economic recovery in the country. And to talk about power supply in the country, we have joined us in the studio the executive director of Director Networks of Niger Delta Power Holding Company in the person of Engineer Ife Oyedele. You're welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, for years, Nigeria has been investing huge amount of money, millions of dollars in the power sector. At some point, the present administration had to ask, despite this amount of money spent, where is power? Where is Nigeria's power?
And rightly so too. This is almost 150 years since electricity got to Nigeria, 1898 or so. And yet we don't have every nooks and crannies of Nigeria covered with power supply. And even those who enjoy power supply from the national grid today, we talk about 15 hours, we talk about 18 hours. Yes, some are lucky to have 24 hours, but majority of the people, we still talk about hours, and that's not acceptable to us as professionals in this field, and also to the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. It's not acceptable. So that's the reason why he asked that question, where is the power? But since then, government has put in place a lot of measures to ensure that we have regular power supply. And I will talk mostly from the angle of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, which is an intervention agency. In the last few years, the intervention from the Niger Delta Power Holding has increased generation capacity by 4,000 megawatts. I mean, prior to that, all of the generation capacity of Nigeria was not up to 5,000 megawatts. So if you understand that we are capable of generating up to 4,000 megawatts as of today, that's a big improvement. In the transmission sector, that a few days ago, the Transmission Company of Nigeria was able to transmit 5,582 megawatts.
A record.
A record. It's an achievement by this administration, and it's also due to the contribution largely from Niger Delta Power Holding Company. If you want to talk about that, I'll also go on to say that in the next few months, many substations, transmission substations and lines will also come online, and that will be a tremendous achievement. Let me give you an example. In Lafia, in Nasarawa State, for instance, even the government house in Lafia is run virtually permanently on generator. So you can imagine what it is. There's only one single 33 kV line that goes all the way from Abuja to Lafia. That means that is the only regular source of power supply, and that's a distance of about 100 and something kilometers. So what do you expect? By the time the electricity gets there, because of the losses on the road, on the way, you would have just candlelight, lighting, even in those places. So people cannot run even their air conditioning on that line.
So now some people are actually saying that yes, some parts of the power sector has been privatized in the country, and they actually see that as a problem because that due to the fact that the expected result of this privatization is that the impact is actually not felt by some Nigerians, most especially when you talk about the distribution companies.
It's unfortunate because yes, the distribution companies have a story to tell. But as a professional, and to my mind, I think what happened was that they were not prepared for the challenges. And I'm not sure that they have the financial capacity and the technical capacity to do what they are expected to do. Prior to the privatization, for 20-30 years, there was massive increase in demand for electricity, expansion in industrial expansion, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, there was no corresponding investment in the power sector. And I believe that those who bought this distribution companies and the generation companies also had the enough time to do their due diligence, and they must have seen the problems in the sector. You know, I believe that that's what is responsible for that gap that we see now, because people expected, and because of our recent experience in the telecommunication sector, people expected to see the same kind of outcome revolution, so to say, you know, in that sector. But unfortunately, that was not what happened, because, like I said, I'm not sure they have the financial muscles and the technical capacity. I remember that when this government came into office, when one of the discos took over, they said all of their consumer base was 1 million, whereas in one single city they got over 1 million consumers there. So what happened? Why? How come they didn't know that? How come they were not able to determine that? But I believe that if that sector had been sold to companies that have cognate experience in that sector, that have done similar things in other parts of the world, will have been able to see that tremendous impact.
Well, I'm sure even the federal government, the government of the day, has actually initiated some policies to ensuring that we have a stable power supply in the country. They even have like a 25 years plan or thereabout. But you respond to some of this after we must have taken this report from NTA Aba. It talks about electricity in the country as well.
And supply of steady electricity to every nooks and crannies of Nigeria would indeed add value to every sector of the Nigerian economy.
I would suppose that on the government side, which is the sector handling transmission, they will do the needful in order to improve the transmission sector. Of course, from time to time we hear that the national grid has some problems, like collapsing and stuff. I would suppose that the government is on top of the situation. If they have the appropriate and professional advice. On the generation sector and then on the distribution sector, which have been privatized, I will also suppose that the private sector companies in charge of these areas are up and doing, because the more downtime they have, less money they have. So I would suppose that they will do what is necessary to make sure that the supply to consumers are more regular, so that they earn more money.
One of the major causes of power failure in Nigeria is that power generation is not diversified. The present administration has repeatedly identified the need to embrace renewable energy, especially solar energy, so as to bridge the gap of electricity generation deficiency being experienced in the country.
Can get solar to be sustainably cheap, then we can utilize the concept of solar generation and complement what is on ground in terms of the grid electricity that we have. Now, have solar that will, if you have solar that is sustainable, then our local schools in the local government areas, even in urban areas, we have sustainable electricity to carry on with the business of education, the business of research and development. And then we will see a lot of multiplier effects in the economy.
Solar-based energy, especially when configured on a large scale, can ultimately result in the reduction of cost of generating and distribution of electricity in Nigeria. Ifeanyi Richard, a user of this new form of renewable energy, shares his experience.
It gives 24 hours light. Yeah, it is, because since after this installation, I will tell you that I don't even know when there is light and when there is no light, because I keep my light and my AC, my fridge, everything work 24 hours. It is. And I don't know, there is no monthly subscription or maybe buying of fuel like that. I don't do that anymore since I did my installation. When you compare this with our generator, you see that you don't run scatter. You want to go and get fuel to go and on your fuel. Perhaps when you get this fuel, the noise of that generator will not even allow you to enjoy the light you are using. And the NEPA aspect will not even, before you know your prepared has finished, you now start to go and looking for network to go and subscribe to go and do all this. So that since I installed it, I've not encountered all those kind of stress. Apart from one very day that I have surge, there is a kind of, and now say that the transformer has blown, this and that. That was only when I called my engineer to come and help me to put things in order. And after that to now, I've not come across such problem again.
The energy supply mix for Nigeria must be diversified through appropriate infrastructure development and the utilization of abundant renewable energy resources present, which will not only stabilize the electricity supply, but also improve the energy security.
Well, they emphasizing more on the need to diversify the energy mix in the country. And of course, our numbers are displayed on the screen. You can send in your comments. Some of them are coming already. We'll take them at the right time. And of course, there you have it in that report, the young man emphasizing the advantages of a solar energy. Of course, he's been enjoying it. And then that is very critical when we talk about rural electrification, because it's on record that about 50% of Nigerians are not even connected to national grid. What do we need to do really differently to ensure that these rural areas have for their own mix?
Well, I think what we need to do is what the government is doing at the moment. And there are too many steps being taken now to be able to go through them, but I'll just go through some of them. Yeah. One of these is what you talked about, the renewable energy, introduction of renewable energy into the mix, which includes wind energy, for instance.
But are we leverage on that in the country?
Yes, I mean, look, these things take time and need financial resources to complete. Yeah. But a lot of companies are coming into the country to begin to do all of this. Mm-hmm. And that's really, and then we talk about solar power. Let me give you an example. The Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, as part of its intervention projects, recently installed a 15 kilowatt hour solar panel in one of the rural areas in Ondo State. And when I went on inspection of the place to check whether the system is working, I discovered that there was no light in the primary health center where it was installed, and I was angry, and I thought, look, but when I got inside and I spoke with the matron on duty, she said to me, oh, I switched it off. And I said, why do you switch it off? She said, every time they put on the light in the place, the entire community will come into the hospital to charge their phones and watch television. And so they would be able to carry out their normal duties of treating patients in the place. That's how critical the issue of power supply is. But another thing the government is doing is to look into the sectors and through the eligible customer declaration and the willing buyer, willing seller, we go into a cluster where you have industries, and then a company like NDPHC or any generation company supplies them directly power. Okay. And government is ready to back
this up.
Because that would be critical, because it will actually increase our comparative advantage.
You don't even understand how critical that can be to a company like Niger Delta Park Holding Company Limited. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this program, we're capable of generating 4,000 megawatts. I'm not sure on the average that we generate more than 600 megawatts every day. Look, you have a plant that can, you have plants that can generate 4,000 megawatts, and all you can generate on a daily basis and put on the national grid is 600 megawatts.
And you have the capacity to generate
4,000 megawatts.
Why is that?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. One is the transmission capacity. You know, we are not able to put more than that on the grid. Now, we pay for maintenance of these turbines. Now, when they are lying low, when they are not generating, it's costing us some money. And even the 600 megawatts that we generate, because of the problems in the industry, I don't want to tell you how much we're paid. How much of that? We at best, when we are paid at the end of the month for whatever we have generated, at best, I'm not sure we have ever gone over 30%. Ever. So you can imagine that is what we use to maintain all our plants, whether they are generating or they are not generating. Of course, we have the issue of gas as well, which is also a problem. But you see, government is tackling all of this. You would have seen a lot of meetings going on in NNPC with the oil IOCs and so on and so forth. And this is going to lead to sufficiency in that sector.
And trust me, engineer, that is exactly what Nigerians want to see: efficient, sufficient power supply in the country, because it's very critical to everything we aspire to do in the country. Now, let's take this next report from NTA Kano, still talking about the need to diversify the power generation in the country.
The demand for energy as basic necessity of life is paramount. Nigeria has been facing challenges in provision of sufficient electricity to its citizens. Amazingly, some rural areas are not even connected to national electricity supply, while few others that are connected are only taking part in sharing within the limited amount of megawatts the country is able to generate. Energy provision is identified as panacea to cost for development. That is why the country is in recent years considering an alternative energy supply.
Solar is growing now. Every small home has solar. The grid is very expensive to deploy, to generate, it's expensive, to distribute, it's expensive, and there is no how the grid can reach every nook and corner of this country. But solar energy is portable, modular, and getting more and more affordable.
In Kano City, a number of rural areas are connected to solar to provide them with energy as a basic necessity of life.
Because solar is very important in rural areas. At times, some places doesn't have access to national grid. Like in my local government, as we have a village where doesn't have a distance, so we have to put solar there.
While stakeholders are busy installing solar facilities in rural areas, it is pertinent to ask whether such facilities are affordable to rural dwellers.
When you used to buy 80-watt solar panel for 80,000 naira, now it is is under 20,000 naira. Cost has gone down and the acceptance has tripled several times over. And people are now comfortable with solar energy as an alternative source of energy.
Some people believe that solar system is exposed to a lot of challenges.
Solar has so many advantages. You know, if not because of these vandals, they vandalize and destroy things, solar is very important. We have available energy in the sun, so we convert it to electricity. So using that solar, it helps a lot. If not because of insecurity, solar is the best to be used in rural areas.
Rural areas require adequate energy and other social amenities to encourage them to appreciate their community.
Yes, from the views from the streets we had yesterday, you know, a lot of young Nigerians believe that by the time we have stable power supply in the country, they will thrive. Most you know, SMEs in the country actually, you know, depend on power supply for their businesses to thrive. And we still have Engineer Oyedele with us in the studio. Now, Nigerians, obviously, they would want to, you know, be connected to the national grid for some reasons. And now some people are looking inward to ensuring that they have solar provided, most especially in the rural areas where they are not connected to the national grid. Now, how sustainable can this be moving forward?
Very, very sustainable. And I'm not sure that it is correct to say that Nigerians want to be connected to the national grid. Nigerians want steady, uninterrupted power supply in their homes. They don't care what the source is, you know. And luckily for us, because of the fact that many the solar energy is now more acceptable. I mean, it's getting wide acceptability all over the world. The cost is dropping tremendously. In 10 years ago, if you wanted to do solar, if you were to spend 100 naira, today you will spend less than 10 naira to get that. And there's no limit to what this renewable energy can do. Wind energy, for instance, a wind turbine, you can generate 15 megawatts from one single turbine, you know. And the effect of that is that we can have all of this mix. In actual fact, I don't know why investors don't understand that. If you have your wind turbine, you can also supply the neighborhood. You can also, because if you are an industry, for instance, if you are and you install a 15 megawatts, you can decide to sell the excess that you have to the distribution companies around your area. And government is really focusing on this. In many of the industrial areas in the southeast, in where you have the cluster of industries around Shagamu interchange and all of those places in Lagos, government is now encouraging the willing seller, willing buyer declaration, so that if NDPHC, for instance, from our Olorunshogo power plant, we can go into that cluster and say, oh, you need 100 megawatts, and then with collaboration with the discos, some of the discos now are waking up to the reality, and they are approaching NPHC, for instance, to say, look, we need, if you supply us 100 megawatts or 200 megawatts, we will take that, and then we'll have an agreement.
Do we have an example of places where this has worked?
Oh, yes, many of the places, all over the country. All over the country. I give you an example of the Shagamu interchange, where you have all of those factories. When you drive along that road in Kano, the textile industries all over the country, you know. So that's the in thing. That's where the government will have a breakthrough, and I'm sure that before the end of this year, you will see that, because once we take all of those clusters, all of those industrial areas away from the national grid, then the national grid will have enough power to give to consumers, to homes, to offices, and so on and so forth. And that's going to be a win-win situation, both for government and for all of us.
Well, a win-win situation. I like that as a submission. And then I know when we talk about standards, most companies want to, bring out good products. Of course, they also have to rely heavily on electricity. Even though now you're saying it doesn't matter where the source is, they just want stable and reliable power supply in order to, increase their competitiveness in terms of our global standard. But we really want standard most of our products, and this next feature will look at standards in Nigeria.
Despite the efforts of SON, the question is, why are there still substandard products in Nigeria?
When we talk about products, people on the street use them. We don't seem to appreciate the importance of standard or substandard products. We don't seem to know the evil of using substandard products. So I think, apart from the technical work that they are doing, we may have to go to the streets and get people enlightened on the hazards of using such substandard products. So some videos, some posters, audio visuals will assist a lot in creating the necessary public awareness.
This is a result of the threats found by the drastic influx and circulation of substandard products. Consumers are compelled to patronize imported, fairly used products and sometimes fake or expired products.
Certification tells the people that this product is not only authentic, but is up to standard. May not necessarily be of the highest standard, but at least it has reached the minimum standard required for safety, quality, and wholeness of the product.
Talking about standardization, services are not left out. What happens when flights are cancelled without communicating to prospective passengers?
In case of flight delays or flight cancellation, the airline ought to have informed the passengers minimum 2-3 hours before that time, through a text message, through email, and some other social platforms that they can reach their client. But the challenge you still have is that you discover that some of the passengers, their tickets are bought for them through agents. So at times, the airline may send a text message or even an email to that passenger, but it goes into the email or to the phone number of the agent.
The responsibility of standardization of Nigeria must be known by all and sundry through more campaigns, information, education to the consuming public to put a stop to the consumption and use of substandard or fake products.
We should be expecting more robust inspections, more robust enforcement of people breaking the rules, and more robust public awareness of what we are doing, so that we can have both the public and the industries, on our side.
There should be a review of laws to sanction offenders who engage in faking and counterfeiting products to serve as deterrents to others.
Well, there you have it. Of course, our topic this weekend is about the expectations of 2021. Nigerians are really expecting that a lot of things will be put, right in the country. And I know in the electricity sector, we have, one of the finest, best cables around the world.
Nigeria is very lucky in that in the electricity sector, many of our professionals still act very responsibly. Nigerian cables anywhere in the world is the best. You cannot go and buy. Look, in spite of development in China and all of those places, Nigerian cables rank above them in standard. You wouldn't go and buy an Indian cable or Chinese cable in the market. So as far as I'm concerned, regulation is very important.
Now it's
and this is kudos to all of the organizations in the sector. NEMSA, NERC, the Electricity Regulation Commission, NEMSA in particular, which is the chief police of the sector. You know, they ensure that even installations are carried out to standard. And now you cannot get your installation approved, even if you are a government agency, without meeting the required standard.
Well, engineer, one key controversial area is to do with the pricing of, if you like, electricity tariff in the country. Now, sometimes you hear increase there, and then the government will come to counter it. Really. And the discos are really complaining that if they don't have value for their money, they will not be able to invest to enable them to distribute this power adequately.
Well, government has a responsibility, and government must always act in the interest of the larger majority of the people. So as far as I'm concerned, the government intervention is necessary. Government does not regulate pricing. As you can see even in the telecommunication sector, government had to intervene and say, no, you cannot do this. You know, you remember when we were having drop calls, government intervened. You know, yes, I know that NCC was there, but government had to step in. That's what governments do. You know, the NERC is there to mediate between the consumers and the distribution agencies. But look, this is a personal view. For me, I'm not in support of all of this arbitrary increase in tariff. I'm not. I believe that it's an egg and a chicken situation. You know, the discos have to invest in that sector first. They have to invest more. I mean, look at where I come from. In the Ondo South Central District, we have been without power supply for 12 years. 12 good years. I mean, this is a part of the country that was first connected to the national grid in the 50s.
Has the situation changed?
No. You know, so that's why we're doing the eligible customer in the area now. You know, so look, I mean, if you are affected like me, I mean, personally now, I mean, if I were not in Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, they probably will never have power supply again, you know, because I was there and the government was determined to break that jinx. That was responsible for government going into that area and reticulating all the abandoned networks.
Trust me, because you are there, you are experiencing it. Nobody will have to come and give you a different report of fake news, which will be tagged as a fake news. Exactly. If you were there. Now, trust me, fake news actually trended last year, and then it's rearing its ugly head here in 2021 as well. You know who popularized the idea of fake news in 2020? Oh, in the recent years. So let's take this next report which focuses on fake news put together by Ada.
Has wreaked havoc on our society by creating an environment for false information to thrive in. From the COVID-19 pandemic, NSAS protests, local and international elections, 5G technology, everything has become sensationalized. A news report that is presented as factual is altered for someone's amusement, financial gain, or to simply push meaningless propaganda. Whatever the reason, it leads to a cycle of misleading information. An expression used to describe misinformation, the phrase fake news was popularized by American President Donald Trump during his run for presidency. It has since gained notoriety, taking precedence as a course in some universities and giving up-and-coming comedians a chance at fame. Videos and stories about ridiculous COVID-19 remedies, financial scams, dead hoax, and many more can be shared online by friends and family members who are not aware that the files they are sharing may be embellished. In Nigeria, fake news is also being circulated in print and online, particularly on WhatsApp. For instance, website links allegedly explain how the coronavirus was orchestrated by the Chinese government in order to take control of the American government, or how a Nigerian pastor was denied a visa at the American embassy. Regrettably, people also participate in creating fake news as well as spreading it. The one thing that can be done to suppress the rise of fake news is to question everything. The public should not just accept everything at face value, because unfortunately, we live in a country where fiction can turn into fact through the actions of people who do not mind damaging the reputation of a person or an entity.
There you have it. Always verify any information before you go ahead to share the votes in 2021. Now, before we let you leave, your last word, what would it be fixing the power sector in the country?
I don't think, as long as I'm on the surface of the earth, I don't think there will ever be a last word for me in respect. I mean, this is what I've done all my life. So there won't be a last word until we achieve regular power supply and in all the homes in Nigeria. But I can assure you that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari is doing everything that is humanly possible to ensure that Nigerians get power supply and regular power supply too, and that it reaches all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. We're doing a lot, even as an agency, as an intervention agency, as a private limited liability company owned by the government. I'm not sure there is any local government, and I mean local government in Nigeria today, where we are not presently reticulating distribution networks, building injection substations all over the places. Most of the transmission networks that we're doing, that will add to the capacity of...
Thank you very much, Engineer Oyedele. Trust me, definitely is the greater threat to progress than hardship. We must ensure that we continue to work hard to ensure that we have the regular power supply in the country, because it's going to be a game changer whenever we have that in the country. That's much we can take on the show. See you next week. Bye-bye.